What's up, YouTube? For those of you who don't know what's going on right now, you should really know, that is if you're into Brawl modding. Everybody knows about the Project M clone engine with Roy and Mewtwo. Everybody knows about that. Everybody wants those codes, but now it doesn't matter. For those of you who go on Kitty Corp's forums, Phantom Wings just blew everyone's minds and posted his clone engine called the BrawlEX clone engine. Now it's still in its early stages, and it's going to take a while for everything to get smoothed out, but for now you're able to clone characters over new slots pretty easily with the modules that he provides. Now I'm going to just get right into this. I'm going to assume that you've gone and you've read through the forums and that you have a general understanding of how this is going to work. Okay? For those of you who don't know where the forum is, you can find it in the link of this video. I'll put it there. I'm also going to put all the files that I'm using there, and I'll probably put a pack that you can download in the description of what I'm going to be making here. Now, these are all the files we're going to be using. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to be using BrawlMinus's maximum release, which just got released not too long ago, and I'm going to work from there. I'm also going to be using Dolphin. Now, you don't have to be using Dolphin, but I do recommend that you're using Gecko at least, because I don't know how it's going to work with anything else, and this is going to be focusing on using Gecko. So, I'm going to jump right into this here. The first thing you're going to do is extract all of your files somewhere where you're not going to forget them, somewhere that you're going to have easy access to them, because we're going to have a lot of files to deal with. Alright. The next thing that you're going to do is go into Codes and get out the maximized text file. This text file holds all of our codes. You're going to need something like Code Manager or another GCT Manager program to edit them and add the files. But you can Google that, and if you can't, then I don't know what to tell you. You shouldn't be watching this tutorial to begin with. So I'm going to use Code Manager. Go ahead and open up your text file of maximized. Now, this is not compatible with CBliss or any other character selection screen codes, especially expansion codes and this code right here. The CSS fixes for Giga and Company. That code really messes it up. It won't crash, it'll just make it so that every extra slot that you load will load Mario instead. So we're going to disable that, and it comes naturally, it comes natively in the Brawl Minus pack. So we're going to disable that, and then we're going to edit the character selection screen to have new slots. This part is a little bit complicated, and I recommend reading through the documentation in the beginning of the forums on the opening post, the original post that Phantom Wings posted. We're also going to need his file patch code that he just came out with. It's included in the downloads. And by the way, everything that all these things, the BrawlEX and Phantom Wings module editor, they're on the forums as well. But BrawlEX, this is the clone engine. These are all the files you're going to need to get it to work. All right? And from there, you just got to follow my instructions. So, we're going to go ahead and go to the minus character selection screen, and you're going to look for this line right here. 06 on the left and ending in 28. We're going to add 2 characters to the screen. So we're going to change that to 2A, because in hex it doesn't go by 10 numbers and it gets kind of complicated. But A is 30, so that's 30. There's 30 characters now. And we're going to add a new line. We're going to add 40, 29, and then 4 zeros. Then another 8 zeros. We're also going to change this 18 to 3F. And then we're going to change this 29 to 18. Now that should be fine. We can store the modifications, and that should work. This one, right here, this file patch code was designed by, or rather was modified by the Brawl Minus team to look in the minusery right here folder of your SD card. We're going to need to move everything from this minusery folder somewhere else. And then you can go ahead and delete the minusery folder. So, since we're not going to be looking in the minusery folder anymore, we're going to have to delete this file patch code and replace it with the one that he provided in the download of BrawlEX. It's in the README file. It's near the bottom. Right here. You don't need to get the name, just the codes. Copy that and paste it right here on the right. Don't worry about any of the formatting or any of the spaces. We can just, it can be all messed up as long as they're on their own lines. The spacing doesn't matter because when you store the modifications and go back to it, it fixes it all by itself. Now, I don't know how to do this for Revolution or anything like that, so you'll have to look for that in a future tutorial or for somebody like Phantom Wings to post it on his original post. I'm going to rename this just because I want to keep everything nice and neat for when I edit this later. But you don't have to do that. I believe that's everything in here, at least, that we need to change. So I'm going to save it as a TXT file as well as a GCT file because I want to edit it later. So you're just gonna want to click export to GCT, store it to file, and store it on the desktop wherever you want to store it as RSBEO1, and that should be it. You can go ahead and close out of Code Manager now and take your GCT file, throw it in codes. You can get rid of custom stages and Revolution because we're not going to be using them in this tutorial. Throw it in there, replace it, and you're done with the code section of it. Now, your download should come with a private folder. Open that and navigate to this right here, to RSBE, and throw everything that you copied out of the -3 folder, which should just be this PF folder, into here. Now, open BrawlEX and go to Core Files. Or you can just go to Test Files, since I used mine earlier, and copy System and Module. You can go to Core Files or Test Files, it doesn't matter. I just used mine earlier when I was testing to see if this worked. Copy those in, it's going to ask you to merge, say yes, and then that should be it. At least for that part. Now, you need to make a new folder inside your PF folder called BrawlEX. Inside of here, you need to create new folders that match the layout right here inside of config templates. So, cosmetic, config, CSS, slot, config, fighter, config, and slot, config. After you got those 4 folders, that should be all you have to do in here. We should be done for now with everything in the private folder. So we can get rid of that. And the next thing you want to do is this that I'm going to include in the description is called Easy Dolphin SD Card Maker. That's if you're going to be using Dolphin. If not, then you can skip this whole part and just go ahead to where I do the rest of the stuff. But right now, I'm going to make an SD card because I'm doing this with Dolphin. Just go ahead and double click on Easy Dolphin SD Card Maker. Make sure it's not the MK SD card application. And click 2 GB, make the virtual SD card. Click Run. And as soon as it's done, what it's going to do is it's going to create an sd.raw file. And I believe it's going to be in this location right here. And as soon as that's done, we put that in our Dolphin directory. I'll show you where that is in a little bit. Which it should be done in a moment. It says working. Alright, well, it's done. Okay. Now, I use WinImage in order to edit it. You're going to need something similar. I recommend WinImage because it has a free trial, and I'm pretty sure it's free, that they have a free version. But go ahead and open it in WinImage. And once you're here, take all of your stuff that you've been editing that came out of the Brawl minus Maximum download and drag it into WinImage. It'll ask you if you want to inject it. Say yes. It might take a while. It might not, depending on your computer. Then you have this. Yours isn't going to have an apps folder. Go ahead and add an apps folder. Then you're going to have to download Gecko from their website. Just Google Gecko OS and click on the first link. Download it. Put it in here. And if you're running Homebrew, you know how to do all of this. So after you do that, we can just save it and close it for now. And we're going to go ahead and open up the config utility that he provided in the download. And this is what's going to control who goes in what slot. Now, the only thing you need to know is that we added 2 numbers to the CSS screen. The first one was 3F. I'm going to go ahead and write those down for you guys so you can see them. The first one was 3F, and the other one was 40. We're going to have to remember these that you put in to the character selection code, okay? These are really important, and they're going to dictate everything that we're doing from this point on. Go ahead and go into these templates and find the character that you want to place in a new slot. I'm going to grab Lucario. Cosmetic 20. Lucario. I'm going to copy it to the desktop because I want to keep my configs, my templates that I downloaded so I don't have to re-download them. And go ahead and find the character that matches in all of these and drag them to where you copied the other ones. We're going to be opening up the fighter config and the modules later, so you don't need to worry about any of this yet. We'll get on to that. Right now, just copy these files somewhere else. Alright, after you've copied them somewhere else, you're going to want to rename all of them. All of these numbers, you want to replace them with the slot that you're overwriting. I added 2 slots, but in this tutorial, we're actually only going to be adding 1. So we'll use the 3F slot. This slot, 3F, that we added, we're going to take that number, and we're going to rename all the files so that the name is gone, and this is 3F. And this is where stuff gets really important that you don't mess up. Because this is how it knows what to do to what slot. If you mess this up, it could freeze or just show a Mario. You're going to have to troubleshoot a little bit if that starts to happen to see what codes you're running if you're not going with the Brawl minus Maximum download like I'm doing. But everything should work out perfectly if you just follow this pretty much to the T. Now, he included a config utility, and that's what we're going to use to open up this right here, the fighter. We got to open up this fighter config. And we're going to change it from Lucario right up here. This changes everything. Whatever you change this to, whatever the character name is going to be, like if we wanted a character called Tank, if I could spell it right, Tank, all the files will be called Tank. And they'll be on the SD card in the fighter folder under the folder Tank. But I'm just going to keep mine Lucario. I'm going to name it Lucario X. And I'm going to save it. Now don't worry about any of this stuff yet. You are going to have to get this from somewhere. All of these things. At least one of the costumes, the motion file, and the moveset. Now, I don't know where or if you're just going to replace a character with something off of the Brawl Vault, then that's fine if it has the motion file too. It has to have the motion file, it has to have the moveset, and it has to have at least one costume. If it doesn't, then it's just going to crash when you try and click on the level. So after you save this, exit it, put it all together in the same spot, and we're going to go to the BrawlEX folder, and we're going to go to X modules. Find the Lucario module or whatever character that you're doing and copy it with the rest of the files. You're going to want to rename it to FT Lucario X or whatever you named it in the fighter file. Now this part is a little bit complicated if you don't understand what I've been doing so far. We're going to open the module in his module editor. We're going to find it. It's under FT Lucario X. Expand it, go to section 8, and click Memory Viewer. It's always going to be section 8, and this right here. This first entry, you have to change these last two to the same number that you put in your character selection screen code. In our case, it's 3F, so I'm going to change it to 3F. You don't need to click anything else. You just need to exit out of this and save it. Now, go back to the private folder, Wii, App, RSBE, PF, and BrawlEX. This is where you got to put your respective files. So, we're going to put fighter in the fighter configs, slot 3F in the slot configs, the cosmetic goes in the cosmetic, and the CSS goes in the CSS. Now, at this point, a lot of people think that they're done, and this could really stop things from working, is that you're not done. You have to go to Fighter, and you have to make a new folder. You have to make a new folder and put all the files in it. The folder is called whatever you called it in the Fighter file that we edited earlier. In this case, it was Lucario X. Now, right now, there's nothing in here. So, even if the module works, and it loads up with its character selection portrait and everything, when you actually click on the stage and try and load everything, in Dolphin it'll throw a bunch of errors, but on the normal Wii and on the homebrew channel and all that, it'll throw a bunch of errors. It'll just freeze. It won't work. So you need to put the files for it to load in here. Now I happen to have a dump from my disk of Brawl, and I can get his original files from that. I know not everybody's gonna have that, but if you're on Kitty Corp, if you go to resources, there's an area where you can download the entire partition to that has all of these files. These are original V-Brawl files, though. They won't be Brawl minus. If you want to change it to Brawl minus, just change this one, which is his moveset, the one that has no numbers or anything after it, just fit Lucario or whatever character you're replacing. So, these are the files that are going to be loaded, and we want to put them in the Lucario X folder. This part is a little bit tedious because it's not fit Lucario anymore. It's fit Lucario X. So after Lucario, on every one of these, we have to change it to X, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but I'm sure that in the future there'll be a better way to do this, and this whole video will be outdated anyway. But a lot of people in the forums seem to not be getting it to work, and I decided to make this video to help them all out because I'm only one person and I can't be on the forums all the time. So yeah, just rename all of these with whatever you named it. It doesn't even have to be Fit Lucario at all. If you named him, for example, Tank, it would be Fit Tank Dark, Fit Tank 00. All of these things would be fit whatever you put. There. Everything except for the motion files now are done. And a lot of these files don't matter, so if you're just getting something to replace that character with from the Brawl Vault, a lot of these don't even matter. I mean, you just need one costume really, if you're going to be loading that color. If you try and load any other color and it doesn't have these, then it's going to be a problem and it's going to freeze because it can't find the files. But a lot of these, like Fit Lucario X Dark, don't matter. The final matters because he needs to be able to do his final smash. The motion file matters because he needs to be able to move. You'll just T-pose and he'll stand in a T-pose if you don't have his motion files. So, but Fit Dark and Fit Spy, they don't really matter. But if you have Partition 2, just copy everything over and rename it. And once you do that, I think, are good to go. I think we're good to go. I think we can try it out now. Alright, well, if you're using the Homebrew channel and Dolphin and you have a real SD card and a real Wii, just copy all of this that you've been working on onto your SD card, onto the root of your SD card. I recommend completely wiping your SD card and reapplying any textures that you have because we don't know exactly what can cause what with what codes right now. I do know that any codes that modify the character selection screen will cause an issue. The independent Pokemon trainer, the independent Pokemon code will probably cause an issue. The Giga & Company, they will probably cause an issue. The alloys, anything that adds or subtracts from the character selection screen will probably cause an issue. But if you don't have any of those, and you really think that this is going to work because you don't have any conflicting codes or anything like that, just take all that you've been working on and put it on your SD card. Now, I'm using Dolphin, so I've got to actually put it inside this little file that I made right here called SD. I'm going to open it back up and I'm going to replace it with all the things that I was working on. Again, I already did that earlier, but now I want to replace it with everything that I've been working on. You can wait till later. You can wait till now to make the SD card. You didn't have to make it earlier, but I made it earlier. So now that everything's in here, and I'm just going to check to make sure that everything's changed. Yeah, everything's changed. We've got all our files. So it should work. Now we're going to hit save, which it should be saving. I don't understand why it wouldn't show up the actual image for it, but I'm just going to assume and double check that it actually did, which it did. Alright. So, I can delete all these. I don't need them anymore. They're all on my SD card. I can delete them. They're not necessary. This is going to symbolize our SD card. We're going to take this and we're going to put it in Dolphin. Alright? Now go to your Dolphin directory wherever you have it installed. This is only if you're using Dolphin. Go to your Dolphin directory wherever you have it installed. Mine's in all of these folders that I use to organize everything. Go to User. Once you're in Dolphin's folder, go to User, Wii, and there should already be an SD card file there. Don't worry about it, just delete it. Delete it and put yours right there. Okay? Now, start up Dolphin. Mine's got this layout going over here, so you don't have to worry about that. You just need to go to Config and go to Wii and Insert SD card. That's important. Insert SD card. That's what's going to allow this to work. Now, for you to have this work on Dolphin, you need to have installed iOS 32 or 36 or whatever it is on Dolphin too. If you have a Wii that you've done it to before, it's a little bit different. I'll go through the process with you, even though that's not what this tutorial is for. I will go through the process with you. I have NUS Downloader, which you're going to need in modding. You're going to need NUS Downloader and click NUS Download. It'll take a while to start up depending on your computer. Now it's checking for the databases. Go to iOS and find iOS 36. Click latest version. Click pack WAD. That's important. You need to click that. Now, click Start NUS Download right here. should do all of its stuff, and then it's done. If you don't know where it downloaded to, you can click extra and open the NUS directory, but generally it's right here. Go to titles, the one with all the numbers, go through everything, don't worry about any of this stuff, just look for the one that says iOS 36 WAD. Drag that to your desktop, click options, no, tools, and install WAD. Now I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it again, but all you got to do is click iOS 36 and click open, and it'll be done. You don't have to do anything else. Now, if you are using Dolphin, you're going to need to have the gecko folder. You're going to need to download gecko anyway. Even though that we're running it on Dolphin, we still need to use gecko. We don't actually need anything else from the gecko but the .elf file. Now mine I put away somewhere, but I'll get it out for you guys. This is the folder that you'll get from the download. You're gonna have to go through a bunch of other folders after you download it. You're gonna want to click Homebrew Channel. You're gonna have to go to ELF or HBC or whatever. You're gonna have to figure it out, but find to where it looks like this, and this one is an ELF file. Okay? Take this ELF file and copy it somewhere. This ELF file is what we're gonna browse to. Now you have to make sure that Brawl, your ISO, is set as the default ISO. When it's set as the default ISO, click open and browse to wherever you saved that file. And when you open it up, it'll give you this. Just ignore this, it doesn't matter. Now, it will take a second. It doesn't normally take this long. I don't know if this is BrawlEX. I know BrawlEX adds 10 seconds to the startup of the game. It doesn't matter how many characters there are that you've added, it will always add 10 seconds to the startup of the game. So, got my controller. Now, when you're on Gecko in Dolphin, you have to change the config options. Go to Gecko hook type and change it to AX next frame. That is really, really important. It will not work if you don't have that. Make sure SD cheats is on, and then everything else should be on off. Click Save Config if you want it to save, so it'll remember that AX next frame is what it's supposed to be on. It'll take a while depending on your setup and everything. Mine takes a while, but don't think it's frozen. It'll come back. Just give it a few minutes. Especially if the SD card is a very big SD card. We click 2 gigabytes, but okay, it's done. Now press B to return and press launch game. It should say game ID and SD cheats found. This right here is where it takes a while to start up. And the reason it takes a while, we can see here in Dolphin, is because it's loading those fighter configs and stuff. See? These right here. It's loaded the fighter one, the slot one, the CSS slot one, and it's going to load the cosmetic one. And then we should see, right here, we should see Lucario. Alright, this file patch code is a little bit weird. It doesn't load this screen and the main menu screen. But just go to training or wherever you want to go. And if you did it right, the one slot you added will be whatever character you replaced it with. This is the Lucario we replaced. This is Lucario X. The other Lucario was way up here. This one, if you look down here, you'll see it loaded Lucario Fit Lucario. But if you click on the other Lucario, it should say module Fit Lucario X. It says open failed. Now this is where it gets a little complicated, where the troubleshooting comes in. It shouldn't have said Lucario X.rel is not there. Let me check the SD card one more time. and make sure I spelled the SD card right. You have to close Dolphin before you can access the SD card again. Go ahead and open up the SD card. And when I'm going to check to see what happened. Aha! That was it. We forgot to put the rel file. The rel file that we edited. Right here. Yep. We forgot to put it in there. This is pretty complicated if you don't know what you're doing at first. But once you get the hang of this, it's pretty good. This right here is what tells it what stuff to load and where to load it. And this has been giving people issues since the beginning of trying to clone people. This was it. But Phantom Wings, he's amazing, and he and Dantarion and the whole Project M backroom and all people in the Brawl modding community, they all have contributed to opensa.dantarion.com, and all of that info is what enabled him and Dantarion to make the clone engine. If it wasn't for Dantarion and all the other Brawl modders, Phantom Wings wouldn't have been able to do it, regardless of how amazing of a person Phantom Wings is. I'm sure he would have figured it out eventually, but definitely thanks to all the others, we've gotten it just that much faster. So make sure you put this file in, and all the other files, and click Save. Now when we open up Dolphin, it'll give us this message again, and it'll take a little bit of time. But no matter how many characters you add, to the game, it'll only take 10 seconds. I don't know if it's going to always take 10 seconds or not. I just know that currently it takes 10 seconds. It might get fixed at a later date. But I have added up to 4 characters and it's taken only 10 seconds. It might slow down if you add up to 100, but I don't think that that's even necessary. Alright, the game is starting up.
Survival!
And there's Lucario. Alright. Now, when we load this one, it shouldn't give us another error. Yep. File read. This time, it said file read and not open failed. And this Lucario loaded the Lucario X files, the Fit Lucario X motion, and his costume. It loaded that. If we were to load the other one, it would load the other files, the standard files that came with the game, that don't have X in them. So these are completely independent of each other. You can modify one and won't modify the other. The only thing I don't know if we can change yet is sound effects and graphics, and character selection portraits. So we can pick Lucario. This one right here, this slot that's just a Mario, that's the empty slot that we didn't do anything to. If you add one to the screen in the character selection code, but don't add anything else to the configs, then you'll end up with a blank Mario slot that will freeze the game if you try and play with it. But if it's a random icon like this, then that means that BrawlEX is not running right. There's some kind of code conflict, or it's just not running at all, it's not configured right. But if you follow this tutorial to the T, it should work fine. So I'm going to go ahead and start it up, and let's see, let's fight against Snake. Level 9 because I'm boss like that. It might also take a while to load on the stage selection screen. But if all goes right, and it should, everything will work perfectly. Now before yesterday, his module ended up freezing with anybody with Lucario or anybody with articles other than Ike and Lucas. But it should be fixed now. Lucario should work when he pulls out an Aura Sphere. If it doesn't, then the problem hasn't been fixed, and that has nothing to do with us or our setup. Well. Seems that it's freezing again. I don't see any errors, though. Oh, nope, it just took a while. Alright.
It's showtime.
There we go, we have Lucario, and we have an Aura Sphere. And this is clone Lucario. This is Lucario from normal Brawl. His down air stops him. It's not Brawl Minus. This is normal Lucario in Brawl Minus. Against Brawl Minus Snake. So there you go, guys. I hope you find this tutorial informing and that it helps you out. That it helps everybody get this up and running, because this was amazing work, and you have all of the modders in the Brawl modding community to thank for getting this done. Especially Dantarion, Project Ends, Backroom, Phantom Wings, everybody who contributed to these codes. They're all amazing, and yeah, that's it. And I'll see you guys later.